Well, my dudes, it's Tuesday, which means we got a website update. We also have some new screenshots that have some relevant information in it. And we're going to take another look at the full roster for the game as it stands after the website update. And I think we can learn some things from it. Some pretty substantial things. I think there's some things we could definitely say are not going to happen with the roster. So let's start with the website. We're already here. So today's reveals, we have our new deluxe reveal. Not new as in, we've already seen this, but every week they give us a deluxe animal on the website, right? So this week it's Concavinator. Things to note with the conch, you could tell that the male has a substantially larger crest on his spine there. The hump is pretty noticeably taller. We obviously have already seen the juvenile and the dimorphism, but this is like, to me, substantially the best look at how much the male differs. Like, this is like the perfect framing to see that enhanced crest. But yeah, other than that, not much to say about that guy. We get Dimorphodon. I'm gonna say one thing I want to point out here. This is a really weak choice for animations. The juvenile and the adult are nearly in sync with the same animation set. So unlike some of the other babies we've seen, like the Tyrannosaur baby, which has its own animation set that's different than the adults and has been recycled through a lot of other theropods, what we're seeing here with the Dimorphodon baby is recycled animations where the baby is just a scaled down version of the adult. Like, even if you're looking at the proportions of this animal, it's not, like, the wings look a little shorter to me, looking at, because they're like kind of coming up here to head length. But like the overall shape of the animal, not substantially different than the adult. Just some minor scaling, and no, it looks like no difference in the animation set. It's literally just the adult animations. So that's a little. I mean, it's Dimorphodon. Like, the baby is so itty bitty, you're never gonna see this. Who really cares that much? But it is kind of another little sign that we're seeing a lot of recycled animation work with the babies. And that's not irrelevant. The baby also has a little bit of a vibe of the Dominion Dimorphodon. You could see, I can't tell looking at this whether or not there's actually pycnofibers on the back of specifically the baby, but it looks like there might be. Like, he's got this darker patch on his shoulders. And the adults are clearly just the Jurassic World Dimorphodon. So I wonder if they're doing, like, this has been a speculation that people have been throwing around, the idea that the babies for variants don't change. So you would have like the one Stegosaurus baby, which either grew up into the World Stego or the Lost World Stego. And this might be the one baby that convinces me the most that would be true. Where this could grow up into the Dominion Pycnofiber Dimorphodon or into the larger Jurassic World Dimorphodon we see here. The other possibility, now I'm not sure if we ever get any actual confirmation at any point that the Dimorphodon seen in Dominion's an adult. So maybe they've done a choice here where they've turned the variant into the juvenile because it was smaller and we just don't know that it was necessarily a different variant. Which would be weird because then we'd have like a juvenile that loses pycnofibers when it grows up. But it's possible. The weird thing about that would be, with the Allo, we didn't get the Fallen Kingdom variant as a juvenile. We got the Battle of Big Rock. We got a Battle of Big Rock style juvenile for the Allosaurus, as opposed to the in-franchise juvenile we've actually seen previously. But now that I say that, also, I think the Allo juvenile looks different in Dominion, right? So that one kind of does have a counterpoint inherent in the franchise. So yeah, I don't know. Weird. I don't think we have enough information to say one way or another what's happening there, but it is something worth considering. And then next reveal, we get Mamenchisaurus. So Mamenchisaurus, I have been leaving off my species lists. The entire time I've been speculating, which has been a controversial take because it is a film canon animal, but it's a film canon animal without a film canon model, like, at all. Like, every other creature in the franchise, in the game that we have, right, that's inaccurate to the film, still resembles the film animal mostly, right? Probably the second most inaccurate animal after Mamenchisaurus is, like, Ceratosaurus. But, like, it's got the color palette and patterning of the film animal. It's got some features of the film animal, but it's just they took the film version and they took the actual paleo animal and they found a good in-between spot that kind of captured both. Like nobody complains really that the Cerato's inaccurate because the Cerato looks good, right? And the Mamenchi doesn't necessarily look bad, but it looks nothing like the film version, right? This is not a cross between the paleo-accurate animal, roughly. There's not a cross between the paleontological animal and the film animal, which is radically different than the actual creature. This is just a somewhat poor version, even independently of the actual prehistoric animal. So I cut this from my roster, speculating that it would be reworked, because it's an opportunity for them to sell an animal and not piss people off, right? Like, if they cut Mamenchisaurus in the base game, they remodeled it and put it in a DLC, I don't think anybody would complain, which is why I felt like it was highly likely to get cut. I appear to have over or underestimated the degree to which they want to recycle already completed content from the previous games. So Mamenchisaurus is in and apparently unchanged. Looks like we have maybe a taller male, maybe a little bit thicker neck. Nothing too substantial here in terms of dimorphism, I would say. I guess the body's a little wider too, maybe. But this is kind of like, this is what you do with a male sauropod, right? This is pretty simplistic choices to make for the male. It's nothing surprising. The baby proportions, to me, are given like really strong, like Apatosaurus diplodocus proportions. Like the verticality of the neck on the adults is really not captured on the baby. This looks like an entirely different species. I'm going to be honest with you. This does not read Mamenchisaurus, this baby. Probably because it is a recycled animation set again. So that being included, that already throws a nice little wrench into my rosters I've been speculating on, and that wrench continues to be thrown in with the inclusion of Nodosaurus, who was my original pick for a Nodosaurid, and then I cut it from my roster when Sauropelta came in, and now it's back alongside Sauropelta. I'm not opposed to this guy being in. I think he's the best of the Nodosaurids, in my opinion. It's a pretty good rendition of Borealopelta. Because Nodosaurus is, like, very fragmentary, and this really is just Borealopelta. So I'm happy to see him come back. The pattern work looks essentially the same. This is the male here with the extra spots on the legs, which does look good. I mean, that's more than we typically got with, like, a base game Nodosaurid patterning, so, like, I'm happy to see this. Probably some bigger spikes there on the animal. A little hard to tell for sure in this shot, but it looks to me like if anything, the shoulder, the proportion of the body spikes to the shoulder spike is more even, with the body spikes maybe being bigger in like the male. I don't know, hard to tell. Baby looks about like what you'd expect. Probably shares animations with like Sauropelta, but haven't confirmed that necessarily. But yeah, kind of another surprising include because I don't think anybody expected to see multiple Nodosaurids in the game. Another surprising include, Olorotitan. This gives us essentially the entire ornithopod roster from JWE1, and by extension 2, because we never got any new ornithopods, just variants, in the game, which is wild with how tightly packed the roster is. So the reason this guy's here, again, I've said it like 3 times, recycled animations. This is the same Hadrosaur baby we've seen for every Hadrosaur. Every bipedal Hadrosaur. So definitely when they were cooking up this roster, a large part of it was, hey, we got this particular skeleton and animation set. How many animals can we use this with? And then they've packed all those animals into this base game roster, which from a financial standpoint makes sense, both as a money saving strategy and as a strategy to not piss people off with either paid DLCs or even updates, right? Because if you put this guy in an update, or you may put this in a DLC that people had to pay for, and it had recanned Hadrosaur baby animation and essentially the same model as every other baby Hadrosaur, people would be mad. But if you put it in base game, people are going to not react as poorly to it, right? So it makes some sense to cram this stuff in there. And it's definitely what the roster's doing. We'll see even more of that today yet. In terms of the dimorphism, we can see the male crest is a little more upturned and sharper. This looks like more of what you'd expect with like a wider axe blade, whereas the female is a bit blunted off at the top. And the male has like these stripes on his legs and arms that are, I think, are completely new. Um, and then yeah, there's a stripe on the back of the female. Is this another case of where neither one is exactly the JWE2 model? Because or at least the skin patterning is different. I don't know. I don't remember if the stripe is there, but definitely like this banding on the legs is not there in two, and this crest shape is different, right? Than two. This is more like the JW2 crest shape, I think. So something's being split there on the difference, but yeah, I would say the dimorphism on these guys, I kind of like it actually. This is like a pretty good example, I think, of hadrosaur dimorphism, just aesthetically. The blunting of the crest does a good job, I think. Not much else to say about that. Olorotitan is not, hugely exciting for me. Another inclusion that wasn't on my roster is Plesiosaurus. Not shocking though, because it's Plesiosaurus. Like this is one of the iconic, um, one of the iconic aquatic animals, alongside Ichthyosaurus and like Mosasaurus. So it makes sense that all three of them would be in. Um, no really noticeable differences here with the male and female. Given that one is clearly swimming behind the other one, you can't really discern size differences well here at all. The baby's a little weirdly proportioned with like the head looking a little small, but it's a baby. It's fine. It's expected. Yeah, I don't have much to say about this. Its inclusion does mean we have to probably reevaluate the aquatic roster, which has been kind of stagnant basically the whole time I've been speculating. And I'll have shit to say about that when we get to the slides later in this video. Next, Pyroraptor. This was confirmed last week in the semi-aquatic gameplay footage that came out as being one of the swimmers. And we get to see it here now for the first time up close and personal on the website. I would need to do a closer comparison with the look of this fella right now, but both the female and the male are giving me crazy hair vibes. I mean, definitely the male's like head crest of feathers is even more exaggerated, but even the female's looks like it's very splayed out, maybe because of the particular like threat animation they're doing here. I would imagine that's probably it. If a more neutral pose on the female probably looks like the JW2 one. And yeah, the baby actually looks pretty nice. I kind of like the baby. Like it softens up some of the weirder parts of the adult, so that's kind of neat. The male has an animation glitch or green screen glitch here in the footage, which is funny. You could see the hole in the back of its head and neck right there, where the tail of the female comes in. That's just because whatever effectively whatever color they used as the background when they generated these happens to be the pattern color on the head of the male. So it's pretty funny there. Are the wings bigger on the male too? That would make a lot of sense for a male dromaeosaurid. Tail looks like it's probably a little bushier too. I mean, as far as like male-female differences go, I think this is a pretty good one. This is a good example. Not a big fan of the Pyroraptor in general, but they've done a good job with working with what they have here, I think, for this animal. And yeah, also worth probably mentioning, reading through, the stuff here, we don't really have any hints towards this being the swimmer, even though it's essentially confirmed from the video that it is. So I don't think we should like there like it doesn't have a change here to be a piscivore. There's nothing that implies swimming anywhere in here, so we can't use the database to try and ascertain what the fifth swimmer is, which is relevant as we get to the Spinoraptor, which is the hybrid reveal for this week. It's just the Spinoraptor, right? It looks like it does in JW2. It is labeled as a piscivore, but that already was eating from the fish feeder. This doesn't tell us anything about whether or not this is the swimmer. There's still a lot of debate in the community as to if this is the fifth swimmer, or if Struthiomimus is making it in, or if it's something else. Um, I'll tell you this much: I am pretty damn confident Suchomimus isn't making it in. I don't have any secret information to say that. I think the people who think Suko is in are like heavy coping. Um, and I'll cover that more too when I get to my slides at the end of the video here. But um, the roster space is really tight, and it's tight enough that it limits what we can put into the game if we're trying to include full sets of interrelated animals, such as everything from like Camp Cretaceous and Chaos Theory. Um, the shocking includes continue with the addition of Struthiomimus. Everybody, literally every single person on the planet was sure this guy was cut when we got Archaeornithomimus added. But he's not. He's in. I'm glad. I really like this guy. It's my favorite Ornithomimid in the game. At least until they add like a properly feathered Ornithomimus or something. So I'm glad to see him here. I don't have too much to say about him. The baby looks like what you'd expect. It's the same can animations from the other two Ornithomimids, right? It does little hops and shuffles. Pretty sure we've seen that. Nothing substantial in the dimorphism. The patterning's pretty much similar from the two. Like there's some differences in the striping, but it's kind of the same striping overall. Just, you know, some difference, a little bit of difference in the way it looks is about it. So yeah, one of the less dimorphic animals, but that's not, you know, not every animal should be highly dimorphic. So I don't have any problem with this. Looking at the little, you know, clip here, I'm not sure if the beak is a little shaped a little different on the male. It might just be the camera angle. I'm assuming the tall one here is the male. Tall in positioning, not tall. I can't actually tell if it's actually taller, but it looks like it probably is because it's in the back here, and the hip actually lies above the female hip, even though the foot is further back. So I think it is taller. But yeah, just this front-on view does make it look like the beak is maybe a little more hooked, which would be kind of an interesting way to do sexual dimorphism on an ornithomimosaur. I think I'm reaching a little bit there, but that would be interesting if they give him a little bit of like a feral rooster vibe for the male with like a nice fucking little point hook on the end of the beak, which probably wouldn't be that crazy for a Ornithomimosaur to have as like a defensive measure for like the male or like you know, fight intraspecies combat, fighting with other males. Highly speculative. We can't really tell with that clip that that's actually going on, but I've kind of convinced myself and now I want it. The final reveal is one that is not technically new. We were pretty sure this was in the game. Somebody had done some detailed animation research on the fuzzy video footage from, I don't know, 3 weeks, a month back at this point that had a mysterious dinosaur in it, which everybody was pretty sure now was Yutyrannus, and it has been confirmed. Great, good. This is an animal that absolutely needs to be in the game. One of the high points of the later DLCs for JWE2. So if this was cut, it would have been very upsetting. You could tell the male here has like, I assume this is the male. It looks like it's got a much more feathering on the head. If you look at this one has a look that's much more smooth going down the top of the head to the neck, whereas this one has this like almost like lion's mane thing going on here, which I think is pretty cool. I would like to see, honestly, I would like to at some point see a feathered species that has perhaps an entire like lion's mane of feathers where the female has nothing. I think that would be cool. This is like getting there. I do quite like this dimorphism. But it just kind of makes me think like, what if we took this to 11? Would that be silly or would that be cool? In terms of the patterning, it looks like the female has a new pattern with like thicker, like more stripes along the body than the male, which is interesting. Unless, you know, this is the female and she's got just long, luscious locks, but this definitely reads male with that mane. I think if I'm, you know, if it's not the highest quality, you know, GIF here, if I'm reading this correctly, this is one of my favorite males, I think, now. I quite like this. I like it because unlike the Pyroraptor, it's not like a small crest and then a big crest. It is no feather crest and then a big feather crest. That's why this works really well for me as dimorphism. In addition of a feature rather than just scaling it, right? As if they had, removed the comb from the female in Monosaurus, it would have been kind of a similar vibe. The baby looks probably like it's the same like theropod animation set from the baby Rex, but nothing wrong with it. It looks fine. So yeah. So that is the last thing on here. We have 7 days till the next reveal, which is probably the final one. So the final set of reveals should be our last hybrid. Wait. No, we're missing Indoraptor and Scorpius Rex. So we have 2 hybrids. We have 1 deluxe, which is the... No, wait. We have all the deluxes. Wait, when did this break? Sorry. Right? Hold on. Yeah, Conch, Guan, Proto, Thanatos. Is this the week? This must be... I really thought these were in sync, and I don't know why I thought that, because clearly they never were. Well, anyway, whatever. We got... The pattern has been, recently, in the last couple weeks at least, 1 new deluxe animal, 1 new hybrid. That has to break going forward, because we have all the deluxes and we're missing 2 hybrids. So maybe next week is a double hybrid week, or maybe there is properly 2 weeks of reveals left. I think the only way we have 2 weeks worth of reveals is if they slow down on revealing, right? Because let's look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 new animals this week. And if the eggs... I don't know if the eggs actually are the right count. No, wait. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so probably 2 weeks of 10 reveals still remaining then, actually. You would assume the eggs are actually correct. And if it was 10 this week and there's 20 left, then yeah, 10 every week. So we'll get a new hybrid next week and a hybrid the week after that, alongside 9 other species. Hybrids, of course, are already confirmed, especially now that we have all the Woo hybrids, right? Ankylodocus, Spinoraptor this week, Stegoceratops is there, and, well, Spinoceratops is an honorary Woo hybrid because it was in the Woo, the secret species pack. Okay, so that's done. Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say about this. We have new screenshots. I don't know where these came from, but they are on Reddit, so we'll just go through them there. I looked on Steam and on the website, and they are not present, so that's kind of a weird choice. Let's go back to the start. We'll go through these in order here. So, the first few are just kind of some screenshots of parks in progress. There are a few things worth pointing out in these. This one has a really nice little dock type thing, like a not like a boat dock, but like a dock that people would stand on and look out over the water. What do you call it when it's like at like a park or like a theme park, like a boardwalk, something like that. It does not really seem to be connected to the past, so this is probably purely decorative. Unlikely that people use this. We have a few like skeletons here in these like center areas. And then yeah, there's back here, there's a couple of sauropods. These are Apatosaurus. Almost certainly Apatosaurus. Not 100% confirmed. Apatosaurus has actually not been confirmed yet. But it's a film canon animal. It's going to be in the game. Like, it is essentially confirmed. To me, this is confirmation for Apatosaurus. The reason this isn't Diplodocus is, let's skip forward real quick. Diplodocus is here. And you could tell that the profile is pretty different. Diplodocus has a flatter back and the head rises up more. Whereas this guy is much more hunchbacked, which make like that's Apatosaurus. That's the only animal that looks like that, and it's not going to be a new sauropod. All right, so another screenshot here of another park. The interesting thing with this screenshot is we have this building down here in the corner that is in the water. Now, is this some sort of building that's supposed to interact with the water, like a boat dock or something? for the Cretaceous cruise? I don't think so. I think it's just a building that's clipped into the water, which is really cool. I don't actually know what building this would be. It kind of looks like a garage or something, but like there's like, you know, some garage doors. There's like a storage container there. Obviously, it's a modular building, so like you really can't even tell what it's supposed to be in the first place. So probably shouldn't try to read into it too much for that reason. But it's just really promising to see a building literally overlap with the water. I don't think there's too much else to go on from this video. So there's been speculation. I think Evo Square specifically speculated that this was like an interior lagoon or something. I don't think you can say that. I don't think there's any sign of that. Like there's no, we can't really see any like substantial development of this park out past like this like ridge here. So this could all be just decorative background stuff. Yeah, like this over here does read to me as an exhibit, but I think it's a leap to guess that this is an interior lagoon. It'd be great if it was. I just don't think you can say that. Then we got another shot of the park. This is the one with the Diplo we just kind of skipped ahead to before. We also have down here in the bottom corner some ceratopsians. I saw on Reddit some people speculating that this might have been Torosaurus or Pentaceratops. I'm pretty sure this is Lokiceratops. Specifically, if you look at this guy here, he's got the distinctive, like the horns splay outward in a way that is distinctively Lokiceratops. Specifically, I think, yeah, like that. Yeah, the horns splay outward. The frill, I don't know, man. Is it? I'm kind of questioning it. I think it's Loki. I think because of the low resolution, you can't really make out the distinctiveness of the curved horns on the top. So it ends up looking like kind of a Chasmosaurus frill almost, of where the frill looks a little taller and wider, just because those horns are kind of blurred out. I'm fairly certain this is Loki. Another interesting thing from this screenshot is this helicopter is flying in the Jurassic Park dinosaur crate. So they've apparently done away with the helicopters just bringing in a dinosaur attached to a rope, and now we're bringing in this crate. I've seen speculation that this may mean the helicopter delivers all of your dinosaurs at once, which I could see being a thing, right? Especially for smaller animals. I mean, if this crate doesn't feel like it could contain like 4 Tyrannosauruses, though, that feels like they could do it. Of course, it's a video game; it doesn't need to be realistic, but it would be kind of weird and immersion breaking to see this crate become a clown car with like 4 Tyrannosaurus in it. But on the other hand, if you had the helicopters delivering all these giant crates and a single copy comes out of each individual crate, that would also be immersion breaking. So like what I'd hope to see would be something in between where, you know, the large animals come one to a crate and the smaller animals are clown carred in. But we'll see what actually happens. This building here in the background right behind the crate looks like it's got a bunch of solar panels on the roof, which is definitely an aesthetic we've had in the game before. I don't remember if we have a building that looks like this in 2, but I do remember this actually kind of might have the vibe of, does it look kind of like the greenhouse from JWE1? I don't know. Well, I'm glad to see at least, you know, the possibility for decorative solar panels on the roofs. And yeah, arid environment, but with a bunch of like pine trees, which is not anything we've had in JWE2. If you did any of the arid environments, you were stuck with the cactuses. Or if you did Malta, you had that semi-arid environment with like sparse trees. So this, I would imagine this has to be the Badlands biome. We've probably already seen this with the, you know, conifers, the pine trees or whatever in the more arid environment, but it was a really nice, you know, look at that again. Then the final screenshot here is parasaurs in a snowy environment. So this actually is a very interesting screenshot. One, this is our first hint at a truly snowy environment. This could just be weather, right? This was in 2. because like Canada would be not snowy in JWE2, and then you would get a snowstorm, and then it would temporarily blanket the map in snow. So this could be that again, or this could be a sign of a more Sierra Nevada style map that's permanently snowy. We don't know. Another thing that you can take from this is a very, very clear shot of the Parasaurolophus sexual dimorphism. You can see the distinctly bigger head crests on this parasaur, versus these other three that are much shorter. And these are clearly the females versus the males. This is pretty much what you would have expected from parasaur, right? To have the crest be shortened up for the female. Specifically, interestingly, in the concept art for the very first film, they have Parasaurolophus walkeri is like a male design, and Parasaurolophus, oh god, I'm gonna butcher this, Cridocristatus, is that right? As the female, which is the short-crested Parasaurolophus species. I believe there is no evidence that those are actually male and female variants in the fossil record, because I'm pretty sure they come from different places, and they don't follow like a male to female distribution either, because one is much rarer than the other, I think. I didn't do my research. This is off the cuff, but yeah, it was originally just in like a pre-planning concept art phase for the first film that would actually represent a male and a female, despite the fact that all the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park are female. Don't know what that's about, but you know, it's there. It's actually seen in the film in the visitor center murals. You can see the long-crested and short-crested parasaurs there, which is interesting. Never been really incorporated into the canon of the film franchise, but we're kind of seeing it here. This is not shortened to quite to the degree of Cridocristatus, but it's definitely getting there, right? So it looks decent, you know, I don't hate it. So those are the only new screenshots. Again, I don't know where these actually came from, but they're there. So the last thing to talk about today is, what does all this mean for the roster? So give me 1 second here. So I've gone through and cleaned up my roster speculation slides that we've seen previously. I've deleted the speculatory elements for the most part, and renumbered them. So let's go through these in order real quick. We're not going to go through every individual animal. We're just going to point out, the different subsets. So we know about the 7 hybrids. This is old news. This is what our large carnivore roster is currently looking like with 5 animals. The only non-film one here is Acro. That gets us up to 12. With the medium carnivores, we get up to maybe 18. This is the first spot I want to stop and talk about something. Albertosaurus was soft confirmed at some point by EvoSquare, I'm pretty sure, right? I noticed in her most recent video, checking out everybody else's roster speculation from today, it's not in that list. I don't know if she cut this at some point or never included in that list because she was very uncertain. But yeah, Albertosaurus, not a hard lock. I've left it on the list here, but this is definitely the most speculatory inclusion. Albertosaurus has a lot of franchise history, so I don't think it's that weird for it to be included. But yeah, this is the sketchiest animal on this roster. The rest of these are all hard confirmed. For the small carnivores, this is what we're looking at here. 8 small carnivores. These are all confirmed. These are all essentially film canon animals, plus the revealed Guanlong and Troodon. Not much room for anything else in this roster. This is pretty packed. 4 scavengers. Oviraptor not confirmed. There's probably a slim chance Oviraptor does just get cut. The reason I would say Oviraptor could get cut, it's not actually in the film. Oviraptor only shows up in the deleted prologue and the deleted or the extended director's cut. I'm operating under the assumption Oviraptor's in, which is why I've included it in the list. But it could be gone. It is possible. Big chicken slide. Only Therizinosaurus. Therizinosaurus not actually seen yet. So I think there's essentially no chance this animal could be cut. But it is a unique animal. It would need a completely unique baby. Like, it's got to be in. It's got to be in the game, right? It's got to be in. But what if it isn't? I've included it on the confirmed roster. Um, but technically, there is a slim possibility it's gone. I can't see it actually happening, but currently, uniqueness is looking like a death sentence for animals in the roster. So, in that sense, like, I don't know. It's got to be in, though. There's no way it gets cut. For sauropods, we're looking at 6. Padobrachy, Diplodred, Mamenchi, and Patagotitan. These are film canon animals plus the hybrid requirement and the new animal. The small sauropods of Marga and Niger are essentially cut for sure, right? They would need their own baby animations, presumably. They're just not going to happen. Ceratopsian roster. Absurdly packed. 8 Ceratopsians, just all hard confirmed. Sinoceratops actually hasn't been revealed, but Spinoceratops has. It's clearly in the game. There's no point in considering it soft confirmed. I don't know why people do this. I don't know why anybody would treat Sinoceratops as a soft confirmed animal. You can't make a Spinoceratops with a different Ceratopsian because it has distinctive traits from specifically only the Sinoceratops. Like, no, it's in the game. 8 is a crazy amount for this roster. And every week when we get new reveals, we collectively all ask why they added 3 new Ceratopsians to the game alongside, Guanlong and Patagotitan. Like, what is that new species roster? It's crazy. For the Thyreophorans, we get Nodosaurus, bringing us up to a confirmed set of 3 and 3 for Stegosaurids and Nodosaurids. You may notice here, and you may have noticed on the small carnivore slide, I have cut the Camp Cretaceous species. I think these are no longer a lock. We'll get to that more at the end of these slides, where I have some new slides talking about specific points with the roster that I wanted to bring up, but I have bumped them from being included. I think it's potentially telling or interesting that without Kentrosaurus, we do get an even 3-3 split. And it's interesting that it's like two smaller Asian Stegosaurids plus Stegosaurus, and then 2 Nodosaurids plus Ankylosaurus. Like, it's your bigger, flashier franchise animal, and then some, lower end filler type animals. This could be a sign this is, a complete roster, and they're deliberately balancing these. Probably too soon to actually say that for sure, but maybe. Ornithopods, we got a Olorotitan confirmed this week. I've bumped Ouranosaurus from this list for now. The big thing to notice with the Ornithopod roster, other than the Ouranosaurus, we have every Ornithopod, right? They're all back. They didn't cut anything. That's crazy. They all got in. That's a lot of Ornithopods. I personally really wanted to see a new Ornithopod with a more accurate design over getting something like Cintao or Loro back, but here we are. Small herbivore roster gets Struthiomimus added to it, giving us essentially the complete small herbivore roster from the first game, with the exception of Dracorex, the dubious animal, who's not looking very likely to return. And then, pterosaurs, I had 8 on my list. I've cut the pterosaur and aquatic rosters to 7, because there's 7 confirmed for both. And I no longer... I was previously speculating that, maybe we'd see 8. I don't think that's true. We'll get to this more, of course, when we get to the speculatory section. But 7 confirmed pterosaurs, 7 confirmed aquatics. Both of these rosters look fairly balanced. I'm willing to believe these are deliberately paired up to be 7 and 7, and that these are the complete rosters. We get smaller animals like the Morphodon and Tabajara. We get all the franchise animals here on the pterosaur roster. And we get some other more distinctive animals to fill in the gaps, like Tropognathus and a secondary Astarchid in the form of Thanatos. And then, for the aquatics, we got Ichthy, we got Plesi, we got Mosa. We've got some fan favorites in the form of Chrono and Megalodon, and Dunk is in as another popular animal and a film canon animal as a rebirth. Like this looks to me like it could be a complete roster. The big thing here, uh, Nothosaurus got bumped because I bumped all the Camp Cretaceous non-hybrid animals, and I cut Archelon. I mean, from my speculations, because we've seen no evidence of Archelon yet. This would mean that rock platform animals are completely gone. I could see this happening, especially given the new modular building, given the new environmental tools. Rock platforms are pretty restrictive. Would we expect rock platforms to even be in, or would we expect them to do some more advanced animations and rigging with Archelon and Nothosaurus to allow them to more directly interact with the environment? Is that too much to ask for? Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I thought we had seen rock platforms in background of some shots in lagoons, but maybe those are just rocks. We don't know. And the roster is looking like it has no room for rock platform species. So there it is. So these 80 animals are in my mind the animals that are confirmed. Let's call it 78 confirmed and 2 very likelies in the form of Therizinosaurus and Albertosaurus. I think Therizinosaurus is in almost assuredly for sure. It's just the fact that it's a pretty unique rig that I could see it somehow getting bumped for. And then Albertosaurus, I don't know the status of that in terms of, community opinion. I know at one point it was thought to be in, and now maybe it's not. But I've left it on the list. Let's talk about what the final 6 animals could then be. So here's the animals missing from Camp Cretaceous that were cut, right? So the final 6 could include the Camp Cretaceous roster. There's room for it. This would be Kentro, Mono, Notho, and Arano. So that's, entirely plausible those are in. The reason I'm skeptical now that Camp Cretaceous animals are making it into the game is we've never seen any of them. We are down to the point where we're missing only 6 animals. There are 6 animals that they have not revealed or teased to us in some form. What are the odds that those 6 animals is specifically including the 4 non-hybrid Camp Cretaceous species out of 86? It just happens to be that they've held back these specific 4 species. I think this is, at this point, the odds are against them being in. Because it makes no sense to conceal these specifically. And just like if you were picking dinosaurs out of a hat, surely they would have included one of these. Like, if the Camp Cretaceous animals are in, that means in the next 2 weeks, at a minimum, we would get like 2 Camp Cretaceous animals a week revealed. Like, that's such a strange choice to do. I feel like it's more likely these are bumped. Now, if they're bumped, it could be the sign of like a free update that launches alongside, say, a Chaos Theory DLC that brings back the Camp Cretaceous animals with dimorphic variants and juveniles and serves to be part of a wider, cartoon, free update plus DLC pairing, right? That could be a thing. I could see that happening. I think there's essentially no chance they make pay for every missing animal again. I think that would drive people mad. I think they know that they couldn't get away with that. I think some of these animals have to come back in free updates. So I think this could legitimately be like the plan here, right? I could see this being like kind of forming a template almost for what updates look like. Here's a DLC pack with like 4 animals and then maybe, a recycled animal or 2 and then like a couple of animals for free in the update or something. Or ideally, it would be like, here's a DLC pack with all new animals. Here's a free update with 4 missing animals that kind of pair up with the DLC animals and kind of make a whole extended package. It's hard to say what they're going to do, right? The deluxe edition dinosaurs do imply that we will pay for some previously available animals a second time, which does suck. But also, if you use JWE2's DLC as a base for that, the only 2 DLCs had returning animals. It was the deluxe edition with Hoangosaurus, and then it was the secret species pack with the hybrids. So I don't think we should read too strongly into the deluxe having returning animals in 3, but it is possible that they will follow that template for DLC releases and make us pay for some new animals. Um, and yeah, the fact that Mamenchisaurus made it into the roster also makes me feel like we're not going to see that many redesigns for existing animals. Um, so if they do make us pay for an animal that's previously, um, been in the game, it's probably just going to be the same as it was. Of course, the exception being animals that have been canonized since they were released in the game in the form of like the Chaos Theory animals, Majung, Suko, and Pachyrhinosaurus. It's worth pointing out here too, if we look at the last bullet point, which is slightly cut off on the screen, the all canon animals cannot make it into the game. It's impossible. Unless I guess Albertosaurus is wrong in his cut. I guess that technically is a situation where you could fit the 7 Chaos Theory plus Camp Cretaceous animals in. But if Albertosaurus is included in the roster, you cannot have both the Camp Cretaceous animals and the original Majungasaurus, Suchomimus, and Pachyrhinosaurus variants. It just doesn't work. Now, I've always firmly been in the category of person that thinks Majung, Suko, and Pachyrhino are cut, that they will be reworked as Chaos Theory DLC and sold. And that continues to look likely. There's been a lot of cope out there from people who think that the fact that there's one unrevealed aquatic animal or unconfirmed aquatic, semi-aquatic animal means Suko is in. No, it's not happening. I'm sorry, but they're cutting Suko. I'm convinced. So yeah, this is kind of, I think this is an important thing to point out. Just that like the roster is so tight, we can start to actually rule things out. Another thing we could ascertain from this week's update, the JWE1 animals are almost entirely in the game. So we got Nodosaurus back, we got Struthiomimus back. So that is what that is implying, right? Now, they can't all be in the game though, because again, there is not enough spots left. So we are absolutely not getting the full JWE1 roster. In particular, these are the animals we're missing. Deinonychus and Dracorex, these are probably cut, right? Because one is one of the most unpopular animals in the game, and one is a dubious species. They make sense to be cut, and maybe never come back, or maybe get remodeled and repackaged in the case of Deinonychus. The other notable thing missing, if we look at the JWE1 roster, is Ceratopsians. Pentaceratops, Styracosaurus, and Torosaurus. I think it's essentially impossible that we get all 3 of these in the game. Because that would give us like 9 Ceratopsians, or 11? How many do we have? Hold on. Yeah, that would give us 11 Ceratopsians. That'd be crazy. So I don't think we should consider those to be in. Definitely some of those are cut. What I think is much more likely to make it in is the other remaining JWE1 animals. So, notably, we have Camarasaurus, Huangosaurus, and Polacanthus, right? The last Nodosaurid, the last Asian Stegosaur, and the last Sauropod. I think these are all fairly plausible includes. Slightly less likely is Crichtonsaurus, because this was a deluxe species from JWE1. But if they do put in Huango, Polacanthus, and Camarasaurus, then we have essentially almost the entire JWE1 roster, minus the dubious, the hated, and the heavily redundant animals. So I think this is quite plausible. Another point I will say for these being included, Huangosaurus was already resold to us once. I do not believe they would sell Huangosaurus to us a third time. So he could be cut and come back in a free update, but at this point, with Chungkingosaurus and Gigantspinosaurus confirmed, I would put money down on Huango also being in the game, because he'll reuse the animation set, and we've already seen them put in animals that would probably be hard to sell in a DLC or hard to hype up for a free release, that also use recycled animations, like Olorotitan and Centausaurus. So I think it's I'm pretty confident we'll see at least a few of these animals in the upcoming weeks also make it into the roster. Which again, if we put in like Huangosaurus and Polacanthus, them plus like the 4 Camp Cretaceous animals would be like it. That would be the full roster. So I think this is an argument I'm making in favor of these animals, and then the Camp Cretaceous argument is an argument I make against these animals. If you combine these two together, they just strengthen each other's arguments, right? It would be very surprising for them to hold back the Camp Cretaceous roster. It would not be surprising, given that basically every week they've been doing these reveals. Given that every week they've been doing these reveals, we see a new JWE1 animal. It would be not surprising if we see more JWE1 animals in the upcoming weeks. So if we got Huangosaurus this week, Polacanthus next week, that would be perfectly in line with the distribution of previous reveals, right? So from like a statistical angle, it seems likely there are JW1 animals yet to be seen, which damages the possibility of the Camp Cretaceous ones. Another set of animals here that is essentially impossible. Actually, not impossible because I double counted a Bertosaurus here. So yeah, the only way we would get the full JPOG roster in JW3 launch is if every unrevealed animal is a JPOG animal. So the next 2 weeks, the only new animals we would learn about would be Kamara, Karkar, Kentro, Orano, Styraco, and Torosaurus. This follows the same argument as why I think the Camp Cretaceous animals are not guaranteed in. It would be very weird for the final reveals for JWE3 to all be the JPOG animals. That would be very strange. Again, not impossible. It could happen. But it seems very, very unlikely. Now, I never expected the JPOG animals to all make it into the game, but some people did. And as the weeks went by, we did see evidence in favor of the JPOG animals getting in. We got Homalocephali, we got Dryosaurus, we got Acrocanthosaurus. Those are animals that were all added to the game specifically because they were in JPOG originally in JW1. But at this point, the full JPOG roster is almost impossible. It literally has to be every remaining animal. It would also be really weird to include this roster of JPOG animals, which includes Kentrosaurus and Oranosaurus from Camp Cretaceous, but not Monolophosaurus, right? So this would be really strange because it would specifically exclude Monolophosaurus and Nothosaurus, but include Orano and Kentro. Like, strong argument, I think, that the JPOG animals are not in completely. And then, yeah, oops. Sorry. Other things to mention here with the roster speculation. Dinokairos. Dinokairos is probably the most popular remaining animal we haven't had confirmed. I think it's probably cut because, again, unique animation set. They would have to put a lot more effort into it. And they've already, thrown us a bone. They've done a favor, so to speak. I'm just saying that sarcastically, by giving us Yutyraptor and Yutyrannus. Are they really going to give us the number 3 popular feathered animal? I hope so. But I'm not, convinced. I'm not gonna put money down on this one. I really, really hope we see Dinokairos make it in, but I think it's possibly cut. Another one worth mentioning, Herrerasaurus, Proceratosaurus, and Stegosaurus. These are the JP brochure animals. These are film canon animals that are never seen on screen. Given how stacked the roster is with small carnivores already, I think they're probably cut just for redundancy's sake. I forgot to mention it here, but Metriacanthosaurus also is in this list. Oh shit, I forgot Metri here too. Okay, so yeah, Metriacanthosaurus. JW1 animal, iconic animal. It is a semi-canon animal in the sense that it is canon, but is never seen on screen. It has a Jurassic World website design, just like in Monosaurus. And Monosaurus is in the game. It can reuse juvenile animations from like Ceratosaurus or the Tyrannosaurids or whatever, which I think Ceratosaurus just uses Tyrannosaurid animations as well. I think Metriacanthosaurus is like 100% in the game. I literally didn't put it on the slide because I forgot that it's not confirmed at the moment. And then I remembered afterwards, meant to put it in, forgot again, didn't put it in, and now I'm remembering it. So yeah, if we put Metriacanthosaurus on this slide as well, it's looking even worse for other animal slots. Personally, I think Metri's in. I think Polacanthus is in. I think Hoangosaurus is in. And I think Camarasaurus is in. I think we see those 4 animals revealed for sure in the next 2 weeks, leaving 2 roster slots for like dark horse animals. So I think the dark horse animals, hopefully it's Dinochirus, but it could also be something completely random, or it could be like Carcharodontosaurus for like another large theropod. Um, it could be that. I think, this is the point I left off here. Herrera, Procerato, Segi, and Metri are JP brochure animals. Maybe we get a classic JP DLC with like a Mamenchisaurus variant, a Lost World Pteranodon, and then like free update reintroduces these animals or something. Another, the kind of a pattern, right? There's kind of a pattern emerging of like sets of animals that are explicitly missing that could come back as like a themed update or DLC. That's the point I wanted to make here. Like the Camp Cretaceous animals create a package of animals that could come back. These create a package of animals that could come back. Also, I forgot Tarbosaurus on this list again. So yeah, we said before the only way you could get the Chaos Theory animals in the game alongside these guys would be if Albertosaurus was cut. Well, if you want to also throw in Tarbosaurus to have like the full set of 8, it's impossible. They can't be in the game. There's no room. So yeah. And then I think the final point I didn't put on these slides here. Let me make sure. Oh yeah, this. I'm not done talking. So cuts from the final 6, so to speak. No Archelon or Nothosaurus, so no rock platforms is looking likely. We probably already have the full roster. I've already mentioned this previously. So yeah, this is what I want to talk about next. New species, right? So we haven't had a new species revealed since whatever was the last one. Was it like Psittacosaurus or something? It's been over a month. Like it's been like 5 or 6 weeks since we had a new species revealed. It's not looking like there's many new species left to see. It seems like they front-loaded the new species reveals for some reason. There's not much space left in the roster for there to be any remaining ones, but it would be really weird if they had shown everything. It's possible they have, but it would be weird. So the things I could see happening is essentially, I think there's space for between 0 and 2 remaining new species. My guess, the thing I would favor and put money down on is 1 more new animal that's being revealed for closer to release. Like, as the last marketing push of like, check this shit out, kids. Look what's in the game. Because otherwise they have like no major new reveals to show us anymore. For the last, whatever 3 weeks, I forget how long it is till the game actually comes out, but it'd be weird if there was nothing held back for that last marketing push, right? So I think there's got to be at least 1 new animal left, probably only 1, but maybe 2, right? Because if they revealed 1 like next week and then they revealed 1 like the week before release or something, that would make some sense from a marketing standpoint to kind of ramp back up. But if there's 2 new species, then like, again, the only way we get all the JPOG roster is if there's no new species and no Camp Cretaceous. The only way we get all the Camp Cretaceous animals is if Tarbosaurus is cut or Chaos Theory is cut. And then we get like 1 or 2 new animals. Like, there's not enough room left for kind of everybody's headcanons for what should be included. So there's restrictions substantially. Another point I wanted to make here, DLC balance. Let's talk about this. So I have the wiki. Oh, I had the wiki open. Hold on. Okay, so my final point for this video. We have an interesting pattern emerging for the DLC animals. So if we start with the JWE1 roster, right? Almost the entire roster is confirmed at this point, but it definitely can't make it in. We've already talked about this at length. We're not going to go over that anymore. But let's look at the DLCs for JWE1 and 2. So, first DLC, Deluxe Dinosaur Pack, right? We have Archaeornithomimus confirmed. Majungan Suko probably cut. Styracosaurus, my beloved, not looking very good for him. So we got, 1 animal out of the Deluxe Pack for sure. Possibly 2. 2 fairly likely, I would say. Fallen Kingdom, we're not going to talk about this. This is canon. This doesn't matter. Secrets of Dr. Wu, fully confirmed. Every animal from the Secrets of Dr. Wu is in JWE3. Largely because the hybrids are freebies that they just port directly in. So yeah. And Olorotitan just reuses animations. Troodon's probably the most surprising include from that. Then we have the Cretaceous Dinosaur Pack. Iguanodon and Dreadnoughtus were canonized, right? So these have made it in. Carcharodontosaurus, nowhere to be seen. Carnivore Dinosaur Pack. Acrocanthosaurus confirmed. Herrera and Proceratosaurus missing. Claire's Sanctuary. Tyrannosaurus, Camp Cretaceous variant. Albertosaurus is soft confirmed. So nothing from Claire's is hard confirmed. Battle of Big Rock, let's not talk about that. Film canon, this is clearly in the game. And then the Herbivore Dinosaur Pack after that. Dryosaurus confirmed. Homalocephaly confirmed. Nigersaurus probably cut. So what's the pattern here? What is the point I'm making? The point I'm making is every one of these DLC packs, one of the animals has made it in, at least. And one of the animals from almost every pack is missing. Right? The notable exception is Secrets of Dr. Wu. And if we go to the JWE2 DLCs, this pattern continues. So, let's start first with the new animals introduced into JWE2. We're going to ignore pterosaurs and aquatics. Because not, we know essentially what those full rosters look like, probably. So there's not much to learn from that. In terms of dinosaurs added to the base game for JWE2, Amargasaurus, probably cut. Coelophysis is confirmed, right? So we've got already the pattern of like a confirmed animal, a cut animal. Cryolophosaurus, nobody knows, probably cut. I mean, we don't know, right? This guy could be in. He's pretty unique, so that could go either way. And then we've got Quanjusaurus. Is there anything else before Quanju? I don't think so. So yeah, Quanjusaurus. We haven't seen any sign of this guy. Again, probably an animal that's cut, but he could reuse like Tyrannosaurus animations, so he could still sneak into the roster next week. It's possible. So yeah, there's only like, what was that, 3 or 4 new animals, but we already have one of them confirmed. Unlikely the rest make it in. If we look at the deluxe upgrade pack, Amberosaurus confirmed, Geosternbergia confirmed, Pachyrhino almost certainly cut, and then no sign of Megalosaurus. So again, kind of a 50-50 split almost. Early Cretaceous pack, Chronosaurus is in, 3 unseen or cut. Camp Cretaceous, Scorpius Rex is in, Monolophosaurus, who knows. We're going to ignore the film DLCs. Late Cretaceous pack, this one stands out. We have nothing from the Late Cretaceous pack. So this DLC and Claire's DLC are the only ones that aren't represented currently. So I would not be shocked, honestly, to see an animal from this make it in. Because it's kind of, at this point, it's looking like they might have deliberately touched on every DLC. This is highly speculatory, but yeah, it's not going to be Alamosaurus because this guy's essentially been recycled. So maybe we see one more aquatic and one more aviary species make it in, and Styx or Barb makes it in. Maybe Ostro gets in, or maybe we do have a DLC pack that's just entirely unrepresented in JWE3. Like, I don't know. Feathered Species pack. Yutyrannus is the only one that's confirmed. Geolopterus almost assuredly cut. I think Sinosauropteryx isn't going to make it because there's just no space for them to bother putting in another small scavenger. And everybody hopes Dinocaris makes it in. With the Marine Species pack, we have Dunk confirmed, 3 missing. Cretaceous Predator pack, Conch confirmed, Yutyraptor confirmed, 2 missing. Of course, the Secret Species pack is in. And then Park Managers, Megalodon, Thanatos confirmed, Microceratus also soft confirmed with the marketplace, right? Segi, no sign of him, right? So the overall pattern, looking through all the DLC, is essentially a very rough 50-50 split. Sometimes it's 1 out of 4, sometimes it's 3 out of 4, but like, there's kind of a distribution. There's not a single DLC pack in the entire history of the franchise, other than film canon animals packs, where every animal's confirmed in. Every single pack is missing something, right? that starts to look deliberate to me. That starts to look like they're heading off criticisms of reselling DLCs entirely by making sure something from every DLC is free and in base game. And if that was true, if that actually is what they're doing, then something is missing. Something will be revealed and confirmed from the late Cretaceous pack. That is ultimately my thesis statement here. So all that's to say that the roster is weird and cramped and crowded. And my personal guess, what I really think is happening for the last 6 animals, assuming Albertosaurus is in, right? I'm just gonna assume Albertosaurus made it. I really think the last 6 animals is like Kamara, Metri, Huango, Polacanthus, a new species, and like Australovenator or something, maybe. Or maybe they do like a 7-8 split on aviary lagoon animals, and we get Barbarodactylus or we get Styxosaurus. I would vastly prefer Styx. But yeah, that's gonna be my prediction, right? 4 JWE1 animals, 1 new species, and a Cretaceous DLC animal. Is that the right pack? I forgot the name already. Yeah, late Cretaceous pack. So yeah, I rambled way too long in this video, but you should expect this by now. We'll probably do this again next week, of course, because we'll have, you know, even more confirmation of the stuff. Next week will tell us, like, unambiguously. Oh, I had the page open right there. Next week will tell us unambiguously if Camp Cretaceous is getting in or not. I mean, there's like a possibility that next week is almost entirely reveals we already know, because there is technically enough animals left they could pull that on us. But like, I think we'll know for sure next week that Camp Cretaceous is cut. So that's my lock of the week. You heard it here. Camp Cretaceous is gone.